of Civic Affairs, hosted by myself, Alex Barr, my co-anchor here, my buddy in crime, Andy Barnes. Andy, how you doing today?
Hey, great, Alex. Great to be back with you for another show.
Are you excited for this one?
I am. We've got a great lineup, and we're starting off with a bang.
Starting off hot, one of the mayoral candidates come October 22nd, Rory Ring. Rory, thanks so much for coming, and how you doing today?
I'm excellent. Thanks for the invitation.
Well, now let's start off with some people might not be too familiar with you in the city. You're not from the Sault, so do you want to give us a little bit about your background and maybe talk to the people that don't know who Rory Ring is?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be in Northern Ontario. I don't know if many people know, but I'm very familiar with the Sault and Northern Ontario, really, again, just because of the family that I was brought up in. Did a lot of camping, a lot of traveling. Like many here in the Sault, my father came over in 1954 on the Franconia to find a better life for himself, and ended up in Hamilton, Steel Town. Found his way in a fabricating and really as a young man, and then starting a young family, traveled in Northern Ontario because it was the most affordable way for a vacation. So that's how I became familiar with the North, and then as well also have some friends here. We came up a few years back through the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. I was the CEO of the Sarnia-Lambton Chamber of Commerce, and wanted to have a little more adventure in life now that we've empty nested. So my wife Michele and I came upon the opportunity and came to Sault Ste. Marie to run the Chamber of Commerce here, and it's been an exciting 3 years. It certainly has presented a number of challenges, but it's always exciting to be in a great place and do some great things.
Absolutely. Andy?
We're glad you did come up here, Rory. Why are you doing this? A lot of people might be wondering, and it's a great challenge to run for mayor.
It's a terrific challenge, and I think, through my professional career as a banker and working within the innovation space and always being involved in community economic development and economic development, sitting on the boards of directors here over the last 3 years for the EDC and the Downtown Association. I think there's a lot of skill set I think that I can bring to the table. And, in coming to Sault Ste. Marie, really noticed that significant challenges from an economic perspective. Tenaris had downsized a significant amount of people from its business model. Algoma, of course, it's in its own challenges, and soon to hopefully have those resolved. But it also presents other challenges too. And I guess one of the things that I noticed, and the best way I can actually relate this to is I'm sitting on the St. Mary's River watching the powerboat races. And I'm standing there thinking, boy, I feel like I'm Sault Ste. Marie, and everybody else is blowing by us with two twin V8s, not even paying attention.
I like that, yeah.
And we have to start moving. We really, have to get our engines fired up. We got to get the horsepower of the community. We have to harness that. And, I really truly believe that I have the ability and the capability, and I choose to do it. And I believe I can do this. And I think, we really need to start moving and stop thinking and get some action. So I decided it was very last minute, because I love what I do at the Chamber of Commerce. And I've decided to take this with a leap of faith and take an unpaid leave of absence from the Chamber of Commerce and to make that commitment. So if we wake up on October 23rd and I'm on the right side of that ballot box, and I would appreciate everyone's vote, that I'll be leaving my post at the Chamber of Commerce to take on a full-time role as mayor.
Right. Now, after you handed us your card when you came in, I kind of realized this question might be answered quite easily. For those of you that can't see, it says, Rory Ring for mayor, more jobs, lower taxes. So, next question is, taxes. Are they hurting the businesses here in the Sault?
Yeah, taxes hurt everybody. When you really think about it, taxes take $1 out of your pocket, and it's $1 that can be generated back into the economy. I'm a firm believer that taxes should remain in the citizen's wallet to a certain extent. Obviously, we need to provide services and good services that our community needs, and I'm not suggesting by any stretch of the imagination that we would reduce, or I would reduce those, or build a team within the council that would reduce the amount of services. I think the challenge that we have to put forward is to keep those services, even increase and make them better, make them better while watching our bottom line. When we look at taxes have increased almost 11% over the four years, that's almost $10 million, $11 million out of our community that have gone into the running of government. So I think we need to be able to control those expenditures, and I think one of the things that we'll see and we'll fine tune in the development of the platform as I talk to people is how do we actually get to zero tax increase? How do we actually freeze taxes for the term of council? Yes, it's a challenge, but you can do it. Productivity, continuous improvement. You can actually do it by engaging the staff of the city, and building a better connectivity with the notion of a citizen-centered government, right? And everybody who's working for the city works really to better the environment and life for citizens of Sault Ste. Marie.
I like that thinking. I think we're at the point where we really need to look at 0% for 4 years.
Yeah,
and it can be
I
done.
think, and I talk to the business community, and our taxes are not competitive along the small business taxes, and that's why I hope we'll build council to do a tax reform, and again, not study it, do it, right, and make ourselves more competitive, because we know investments are not being made by our own business community because it's expensive. If you invest in a building, it's $1 million, and you add 10 jobs, your tax burden is almost $120,000 annually. So that's very, very significant, right? So I think we need to rethink how we approach that model.
Absolutely. More with Rory Ring after this quick break.
Civic Affairs. We're live from the Superior Media Studios. Alex Parr and Andy Martins with Rory Ring, candidate for mayor. And Rory, studies and consultant reports. We've been studying things to death during the last 4 years. This needs to change. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think, I'll bring to the table a policy that'll restrict the number of consultants that that we have to engage. I truly believe that there's a lot of horsepower in Sault Ste. Marie that we can harness, and we need to look to our citizens to help the city out. Yes, we're going to probably need a few here or there, but I really believe that you have to prove that there's a return on the taxpayer's investment in those consultants. We went to the public meeting for the road study, the transportation study for two-way streeting of Queen Street, and they've ended up saying, well, no Queen Street, we want Bay Street. Well, you know what? You had Bay Street on your agenda all the time. Why do you need a consultant to tell you that?
Right.
There's presented a number of challenges with two-waying Bay Street. I saw 5 citizens sit around that table and solve those issues in 45 minutes. Wow. Free of charge. Commitment to the community. I believe that horsepower exists in this town. We've got, significant intellectual capacity, and we've got those who just want to roll their sleeves up and get it done. So, it's time to focus on what we can do as a community together, and bring stakeholders and citizens together and staff together, and really harness that power to improve Sault Ste. Marie.
And a lot of people in the Soo, going back to taxes a little bit here, will say Sault Ste. Marie has the highest taxes in Ontario. Is there any truth behind that statement?
So it depends on what tax class that you look at. So multi-unit residential has a competitive position. Residential depends on where you do your comparators. In Northern Ontario, yes, we're out of line with Timmins and Thunder Bay. But what happens though on the residential side is you have to measure also what we get from the Ontario in terms of grants. So we get through the ONNtv funding from Ontario actually significantly more than some other communities. So when you take a look at that and you adjust for that, we are significantly higher, because of the grants that we receive from the province. So you know, we need to be aware of that. On the industrial side, yeah, we need to make sure we've got some adjustments there, and those are small business taxes. You know, I'm not talking about Algoma or Tenaris or Aruco. I mean, yeah, they pay a significant amount, but they have a very large footprint and have a very large contingent of employees. I'm talking about SIS, Keena Steel, Dave Rector's, you know, Rector Machine, those small fabricators that supply our supply chain for the steel industry, and really incorporate, you know, a large component of what we do as a steel town. And, you know, those rates, not only, you know, we read in the paper the other day, the resolution with Algoma coming out of the bankruptcy, and, you know, the current leadership saying, oh, well, $25 million lost by the business community. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. And by the way, while you're going through that, we're going to raise your taxes by 56.7%. You know, on a rate basis. Yeah, you'll let me pay, you know, that over 10 years, but the bottom line is you take a look at the rate, it went from 7.66 to 11.66. That's pretty significant, you know, and so we need to address that. Yes, it's a challenge. Yes, it's complicated. You'll hear a lot through the campaign, and I can't, you can't, we can't. Not, I choose to. I choose to provide the leadership to help deal with some of these issues and move Sault Ste. Marie forward.
Couldn't have said that any better myself.
Oh, I'll tell you, got to cut through the haze and the weeds to get to the light. Is a good guy to answer the next question. We all want big 2,000 jobs and so on and so forth. But somebody told me, Andy, we got to look within our own community that if each business hired one person, we could create 600 jobs in this community alone.
Absolutely. You know, I'm very fortunate to have brought on Jay McGoldrick, Jay Caroline's, you know, a young lady who's invested in downtown, started a business down there, employs 4 to 5 people. You give me 50 of those, that's 2,500 jobs, you know, or 250 jobs. You go two doors down, there's a young fella, 16-year-old, with a hot dog cart. Young entrepreneur. Give me 500 of those, and I'll build you a community that has prosperity and resilience and diversity. You know, we really need to make sure that that's what we're fostering here. We're making it easy to do business, which we're not doing currently. Right. We need to make sure that small businesses, entrepreneurs are building our downtown, activating our downtown, creating that prosperity and that sense of community. And I think, you know, we need to get rid of the red tape, you know, get rid of the, you know, significant amount of nonsensical permitting that happens. Did you know that to put a flower pot outside your store in downtown, you need to get an occupancy permit? And that permit's good for 12 days. That means somebody like Jake Caroline has to go to City Hall every 12 days just to put a beautification of downtown. So those are the kind of things that we need to cut through and change, right?
We're going to have more with Rory Ring right after another quick break. And thanks for coming back to Civic Affairs. We're back in the studios here with Rory. Now, Rory, the last few mayors we've had in the Soo have traveled quite differently. Some a lot more than others, some a lot less than others. Do you feel that travel plays a big role in being able to promote a city and to help it grow?
You know, absolutely. And you know, each mayor has, you know, different styles and you know, you always have to admire somebody who's in that chair and you know, certainly have great respect for anybody who's preceded, you know, this opportunity being presented to me. My style is you need to promote. You need to get in front of people. You know, all the social media in the world, that's great, but face to face, that's what counts. That's why during this campaign period, you'll see me on the street knocking on doors, you know, really to understand what the citizenry wants. You got to do the same if you're trying to attract a company or even just to create, I guess, you know, the story behind what Soo presents to somebody, right? Yeah, absolutely. I always say, you know what? I chose the Soo. Why wouldn't you? Right? Choose the Soo. What a great place. You know, you've got, you know, just a geography that on its own is extremely enticing, you know, and the people that you have here are fantastic and open. You know, you really have got a super community that's to be promoted, but, you know, if if that power boat is blowing by you with twin V8s,
I love that.
how do they even
comparison.
see you, right? So, you know, you got to stand in the water and put your hand up and say, hey, slow down, take a look at us. So.
I'd say stop and smell the roses, but they can't do that downtown either, can they?
Great. Yeah, that's a great lead into our next question. Geographic location. I've been here also, and I chose the Sioux, and I'm glad I did, for 28 years. Geographic location. Some have said it's a problem for our community, or if you become mayor on October 23rd, can we work around our geographic location?
You know, absolutely. I think the geographic location here is really phenomenal. Yet there's a little bit of isolation that you have to deal with. But you know what? You can jump on a plane and be in Toronto in an hour and 15 minutes, right? It actually will take you a shorter time to fly from Sault Ste. Marie to Toronto than it would to drive from Toronto to Barrie. I have a brother in Barrie, and and what a nightmare. You know, so, you know, geography, yeah, it has some challenges. But those challenges also present opportunity, and I think converting that challenge into an opportunity is really where we need to go. You know, when you take a look at it goes to waterway of the Great Lakes and the Port of Algoma, what an asset that is. I mean, what a tremendous way to build something for the future, and I know that's been around for 40 years and is always getting better and better. So we need to make sure that we're certain that the port comes out on the right side of the transactions that are happening right now, and that we embrace that and build. So, and technology, you know, I always say, you know, they want to say a great place to do business. I want to say what a unique place to do business. So, you know, you could be sitting with a laptop on your fishing boat working. You know, like, come on, does it get any better?
You don't have to drive 3 hours to Muskokas to your cottage kind of thing.
No. 5 minutes, get on your 4x4, you know, sit in the bush, type a few emails and go back on your way, right?
And if I'm not mistaken, some of your travels have brought you through Sarnia, correct?
Yes.
Could you compare what Sarnia is doing right or maybe wrong in comparison to what the Sioux is doing maybe right or wrong?
You know, it's not necessarily a notion of right or wrong. It's doing what's right for your community, depending on the circumstances around it. Now, there are some great similarities between Sault Ste. Marie and Sarnia, border town.
Right.
The communities are the same size. The demographics are the same. It's an industrial town, and you know, it's on a waterway. So there's a lot of similarities. And I always say, you know, the biggest similarity for many towns in Ontario this size is that the largest export is your youth. You know, and that has got to change. I mean, obviously, you know, young people are going to take off and have an adventure no matter what. You know, I did the same traveling Europe after high school, and you know, but you got to build a community where they can come back to, have good paying jobs, have family, you know, and you know, so we need to be able to create that environment in a great place like Sault Ste. Marie. It's you know, in Sarnia, their approach is being a little bit different. It was certainly a little more action-oriented, put the stakeholders that can do something around the table and stop talking about it and just get it done. And those stakeholders will hold each other accountable, and municipal government, provincial and federal government are there to enable things to happen.
Andy?
Great. Awesome. Yeah, Mike Bradley's a great mayor of Sarnia. He's been there for a long time.
I think he's having a race with Hazel from Mississauga to see who can carry the torch the longest.
Rory, can you, decentralization of companies, a good or bad thing? Should we be doing more of that from the GTA and promoting Sault Ste. Marie down there?
Well, I think we should be, and I think Paul Christian and the mayor as well, have a great initiative in terms of finding opportunity with Siouxites that have gone down there. I think we need to amplify that a little bit more, and we do need to be down there promoting on a more frequent basis. And I think leadership should be down there in front of these people and finding those opportunities. And you never know where an opportunity will fall, right? I mean, so you got to shake the tree and make sure that you're understanding what the market is looking for. And then get to that value proposition that says, hey, we know you're looking for this and we got it. This is what it means for you in terms of a benefit to your business, your company, your employees, your way of life, your quality of life. So many of those things. And so absolutely, you got to be down and flying the flag and pounding the pavement.
We'll be back with a little bit more with Rory Ring right after this quick break. Thanks for sticking with Civic Affairs. Once again, joined by Rory here in our studios. So now, Rory, does the Soo do a good enough job when it comes to selling the lifestyle that actually comes with living in Sault Ste. Marie?
You know, it's certainly a challenge, you know. If you're not familiar with Northern Ontario or Soo, you know, you probably have not heard of it, you know, but it is a big challenge because marketing in those campaigns, you need significant budget,
Right.
you know. So, you know, again, a great effort is to have everybody in your community be an ambassador, you know. So when a cruise ship sends, you know, lines up at the dock and sends 250 people into your community, we should all be on the same page as saying how great the Soo is in terms of lifestyle, you know, a future, you know, its environment, those type of things. So we all need to be ambassadors to do that, and we need to use our social media and do those kind of things, right? So, you know, a challenge, yes. Can it be done? Absolutely. Do we have a great lifestyle? Without a doubt. You know, so being able to convince people that, you know, this is a place to come, and doing and enhancing tourism is a great start to that, right? So building tourist-based infrastructure and investing in those things that will attract people to come even just for an experiential visit and go, wow, this is a place I'd love to stay, you know. Even if you're a retiree and you want to be here for 6 months, you know, buy a house. You know, you're still paying taxes, you're employing people for your services. So, yeah, you know, there's opportunity, I think, to do things like that.
Absolutely.
We'd have an easier time selling lifestyle if we had lower taxes, I would think, as opposed to higher taxes than we have.
Yeah, you know, it's about disposable income too, right? From a lifestyle perspective. And that's not to say that, you know, you shouldn't work efficiently with the taxes that you're given to invest in the things that a city needs, right? I mean, obviously the Memekin Center is something that we really need to address, you know, and that I think has to be one of the priorities that we take a look at. You know, we take a look at the arguments for recladding of City Hall, and it's all about safety. Well, you know, if I put 50, 60 families in an arena that has issues because its CO2 infrastructure is deteriorating, I think that's an issue. So we need to decide what's important and start to prioritize some of the spending that we're doing to create those opportunities that allow us to, you know, enhance the hub trail. You know, take a look at the boardwalk. You know, how do we make that just even a little bit more better? How do we deal with the derelict properties that are around town? I mean, we really need to address these type of things. I mean, we need to start talking at all levels of government. You know, just not as a municipality, but we need to get support from the province and from the feds to deal with some of these things. And we need to have those conversations and bring them around the table so that we can deal with them. And that will add, I think, to the quality of life as well as investment in downtown.
And you've also said that, you know, you've been through Sarnia, you've been through Hamilton, you've really made your tracks before coming to the Soo. But what made you stay here? Because, I mean, we talk about a lot about wanting to keep people here, but what is it that keeps, you know, the man that wants to run for mayor here himself?
Yeah, so I don't know if you know southwestern Ontario very well, but it's about as flat and as exciting as this tabletop. It's basically sugar beets, corn. So we talk about lifestyle, but you know, I've lived in many places in Ontario, you know, just through experience, through school, and so one of my first jobs was as a salesperson for J.M. Schneider's, traveling Ontario, covering territories for folks, and so I've seen a lot of Ontario. And you know, the North has always been an attractive place because of the character. You know, where do you go and get lakes and rock and water and wildlife? You know, it's just such a beautiful place, and you know, it's an exciting place, and there's an exciting opportunity as well. You know, and I've always wanted not to shy away from opportunity. You know, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing here, to put my name forward as mayor, because I think there's a great challenge and a great opportunity.
Rory's right. Whether it's Windsor to London or Sarnia to London, it's like Saskatchewan.
Right, yeah, right.
It is, absolutely. You know, so I think we've got a great asset in Sault Ste. Marie. We've got great people, and we've got a great lifestyle, as we say, that we can sell, and we need to sell it, and we need to push it and offer that as opportunities to locate businesses here, for families to come here, for immigration. You know, and we need to embrace our community. We have two great Indigenous communities right on our doorstep. They're the fastest growing demographic in Canada, and their youth want to stay within their cultural community, and we need to embrace that. And, you know, we can see building great partnerships with, you know, with Batchewana and Garden River and our Ojibwe peoples, actually to fill some of the jobs that many of our business community are looking for. So it's not only about bringing more jobs, it's actually filling some of those jobs too that currently exist. So creating the opportunity for our youth. And, you know, we need to make sure that our stakeholders are talking to, you know, Algoma University and Sault College and our employment agencies, and creating paths that will allow us to keep youth, bring youth back, create a great environment for them downtown. I mean, I'm obviously sat on the Downtown Association board, and a real advocate for downtown, as many people are, because that does become, you know, the center hub of your community, and we have to take action again and get that activated and create great opportunities for people to enjoy our downtown.
Well, like I've said with a lot of our guests, I'm sure we'll be seeing plenty more of you come election time. There's still a long way to go before that October 22nd date. So Rory, thank you so much. For Andy, I'm sure he's thanking you as well. And if you're handing out handshakes, I'll grab one myself.
Thank you very much. And ringformayor.com, ringformayor@gmail.ca.
Lots of
Get all the plugs out there
Ring
while you
Facebook,
can.
ring Twitter.
There it is, guys. So thanks so
Thank you
much.
very much,
But
guys.
we've got more guests coming up after the quick break.
Back to Civic Affairs. I'm glad you're still with us. We're live from the ONNtv studios. Alex Parr and Andy Martins as we continue the show, and we have all the great candidates for councillor, and I'm in Ward 1, and Michele McCleave-Kennedy is no stranger to people out there in Sault Ste. Marie, and welcome to the show, Michele.
Thank you for having me.
I'm in Ward 1, so I'd like to know, why are you running for city council?
Well, I'm running for City Council to bring a new perspective to Sault Ste. Marie. So as you're aware, Andy, I started out doing community service about 30 years ago, coaching T-ball.
Right.
I've done a lot of things in our community for young people. And that's what started me out on my road to activism, actually, was coaching T-ball way back in the day. Because there wasn't things for young people to do. And here we are still talking about how there's not things for young people to do. So I'm stepping up to put my name forward and do some things in Sault Ste. Marie, get some things moving economically. As you know, I'm the Labour Council President as well. I sit on the Ontario Federation of Labour as a Vice President. So I'm very excited about working on things with like-minded people with the new council and getting some things moving in Sault Ste. Marie for our youth, for the economy, poverty issues, the mental health issues we have in the city. And as you all know, I mean, I've just come out of the campaign for NDP, and these are many issues that I spoke about then as well. So I'm really, really excited to put my name forward and bring a new energy and a new perspective to council.
And they're relevant at the municipal level as well.
As well. Yes, they totally
Alex, this lady is a major player.
Right. Now, I'm not in Ward 1 myself. I'm all the way out in Ward 5. But I like to consider myself a youth. I still like to think I'm quite young. So for me, what would, do you have an idea on how you would cater to getting things to do for the youth in the city?
There is some start. So I sat on the Community Adjustment Committee last year, and we looked at some different things that we need to do in the city. We need to get the downtown moving again, which we've talked about for a long time. And I do see some patios popping up, which makes me extremely excited. And I do see there's some new beer outspoken. There's some new businesses that youth have come back to Sault Ste. Marie to open. So it's nice to see people coming back to the city and opening new businesses. We need to streamline that. We need to streamline getting new businesses here. We need to work on the tax base. We need to work on things in Sault Ste. Marie to bring people back and to keep people here. And that's what's been talked about too with Algoma University and Sault College, with bringing new programs in to keep young people here doing their schooling. And then they'll want to stay here and they'll want to be here. And we need to have a nightlife, and we need to have some things happening here in Sault Ste. Marie. The Splash Pad is a start. Fringe Festival is a start. those are things that have added a little bit of excitement in Sault Ste. Marie lately.
Right. And like you said too, now that we're seeing that it is possible to have the youth come back and start up their businesses and be successful for themselves, like you say, we got to capitalize on that.
We totally do.
Andy?
I asked Sarah McCleary this question a couple of weeks ago when she was on the show. If you and Sarah McCleary would be elected, you need to find common ground among your fellow councillors with motions and resolutions. Which direction would you two take Sault Ste. Marie for improvement, and what needs to be done?
So as you're aware, Sarah and I both worked together on the NDP campaign.
Right, you were like-minded, yes. I picked her name for a reason.
And we do have some things in common. And James Street is something that she's passionate about. Her and I connected on poverty issues, the mental health issues in Sault Ste. Marie. But it's not just the two of us. There's going to be the whole council,
right.
And we need to work collectively together, both municipal. And we'll have to work with Mr. Romano as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're going to have to work at provincial and federal to get some things moving in here in Sault Ste. Marie. So, I mean, as a new council, I'm pretty excited to be working with a lot of the names I saw. I'm pretty excited to see some change come about in Sault Ste. Marie.
Right, you need 6 votes to pass on this new council.
Yes, yes.
And you have to work with a lot of people. I hope you're willing to work with us after this quick break. Back to Civic Affairs, where Andy and I are joined by Michele McCleave-Kennedy. Now, Michele, I like to think that there may be a person on the other side of that camera who has no idea but wants to be informed about who exactly is running for these wards. So could you give the viewers at home a little bit of your background?
So, as you may be aware, I just ran for NDP, but before that, I'm an educational assistant. I work with special needs students here in Sault Ste. Marie, and I've done that for a number of years. And I pride myself on the advocacy I do for my students, and that's where my passion comes from. And I want to see those students succeed as well as our students succeed, and that's so. Issues that you see in the community are issues that you see in the school. So when my students come to school, I can tell you the poverty issues in Sault Ste. Marie. I can tell you the things there are to do because it's on my students. And that's where we need to get some things changed. And that's where I started coaching baseball 30 years ago, because there was that time when there was an ad in the newspaper for coaches. So then step up. And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm stepping up. I have that energy to step up for council, and I'm going to do that. And so I'll be working for people in Sault Ste. Marie, and I talked to a lot of people at a lot of doors in the last little while, and there's a lot of issues that are similar to the issues that I've already discussed. But I'm very excited to talk to people in Ward 1 and talk to them about the issues that they find are important in our area.
There's no denying you can hear the passion exactly when she says it,
You gotta
right?
be living under a rock in Sault Ste. Marie not to know who Michele McCleave-Kennedy
Very
is.
true.
Which brings us to the next question. I'm going to move it up a little bit here. Anything that you learned or happened in the provincial election that you thought, wow, this is good, you're going to use it now in the municipal election after Labor Day?
Actually, I mean, I spoke to a lot of people, and the mental health issue rang for a lot of people in our community, which at first when I started campaigning, I was a little bit shocked. As I mean, I'm sure a lot of us with the W5 show that came on and that. However, sitting on the Community Adjustment Committee, and we looked at different ways of bringing industry and economy and different things to Sault Ste. Marie, as we've already talked about. That was something that I was excited to see and talk to people about. Another issue, though, that seems to be holding us back is transportation in Sault Ste. Marie. The hub trail, we don't have, getting out there and using things that are not always motorized. Our bus system, if you take the bus, it takes a severe amount of time to get anywhere from when I'm talking to young people. And if we're expecting people to get to work, we're not expecting them to pay to go to the steel plant at certain hours because the buses aren't running. So that's something that needs to be looked at too. And I know it was just looked at, and I know it was just changed, but maybe a new perspective on council will help with those kind of things as well. And that's something I heard from a lot of people as I went door to door.
And I think you did a pretty good job on covering the basis on what your key issues are coming into this election. Are there any others that you're really focused on fixing?
I'm excited to work with the people on council and see how we can push some things forward, specifically the mental health and the poverty issues. I sit on the United Way Poverty Roundtable as well, and that's certainly something that we need to look at when I see little people coming to school that don't have breakfast. And we do have programs in place, and we do make sure they have breakfast. But in this era, in 2018, we shouldn't have an issue of people not having breakfast. So those are things that I look at, and I want to get Sault Ste. Marie needs to be a healthy, vital place to live, and that's what I want to do on council.
How bad is the mental illness in Sault Ste. Marie, and was it a direct correlation into the opioid crisis as such?
I'm not sure that the opioid crisis certainly has something to do with it when we see that W5, but mental health, the onset of mental health starts at 6 years old.
Wow.
Which I've done a lot of training with my own union, and with, obviously I work in education, and when we see little students that are they can't self-regulate and those kind of things, we need to get that going. We need to get services for people when they're young so that so they're employable, so we have a healthy workforce, so that we have people that are happy in Sault Ste. Marie, want to stay here, be here. This is a great place. It's a great place to live, and there's a lot going on here, and we just have to get some people that are willing to work collectively together to push it forward.
Move it together as a team.
Move it together. It's got to be together. We have lots of brilliant people in Sault Ste. Marie that run amazing businesses, but we have to collectively work in the same direction.
And Michele, just before we let you go here, we let Rory have his plug. Where can we go to follow you on your way to October 22nd?
And I am not even on Facebook yet. I will be putting a Facebook page up in the next couple of days. But you can email me at Michele or McCleave-Michele@gmail.com, which was put out in all the literature for Ward 1 anyways. And I will certainly get back to you as quickly as I can.
Awesome, Michele. Thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it. And we appreciate you sticking around. We got one more guest for you, but I can't give that away. We need you to come back. So stay tuned. You'll be in for a treat for sure.
Welcome back to Civic Affairs with Alex Parr and Andy Martins, live from the ONNtv studios. And our final guest for the evening is Ted Hallin, Ward 2 candidate. Welcome to the show, Ted.
Thank you.
You're running in quite a crowded field, my friend. Seven people. And why are you running for council? And tell us a little bit about your background. You're a community-minded guy. I've known you for years.
I've been active for a long time. I came down here in '66 to teach school, and I taught for a year and a half. And after that, I went on construction. Not right away, but I worked in the steel mill for 10 years after that, and learned a trade, millwright trade. And that's why I had mentioned earlier that I'm better known in this hat than in the hat that I'm wearing, although on the street.
Is that the original hat?
No, not the original hat. They're only good for so many years, and then you have to replace them. Anyway, but I've been on construction for more than 30 years, and I worked in the steel mill for 10 years, and I've been active in all kinds of things in the meantime because I see problems and I like to get them fixed. And I've talked to people, hundreds of people, in all kinds of campaigns, and I think it's very important that I throw my hat in the ring.
Hat or the bucket.
That's
maybe.
it. Yeah. That's it. Well, even years ago, I walked in the community parade with that, urging a 32-hour work week to get more work in the suit. Anyway, there have been issues for a long time. I worked in Algoma Steel and got involved in the union, and I've been up to my eyeballs in union ever since.
And you say there are a few problems that need fixing here, need addressing. What would you say are some of your key issues going into this election, essentially?
Well, one of them, I think that we need more concerned people to be sitting on council. We need a change. We've got people that have been in there for a long time that should be replaced. Some have stepped down, and you get a better boost and a different perspective on things. I've seen problems, and I've talked to all kinds of managers and other people to try and get things changed, and it's very difficult. But and I've organized on various things and marches and things for years. As a matter of fact, I believe that one march that I took part in was instrumental in stopping bringing an end to the longest municipal strike in the history of Canada that we had here about 30 years ago. It was a disaster, and City Council wasn't moving on it. So Citizens Committee, we marched on City Hall and said, you are in charge here, do something about it. And that's what we need. We need action that will benefit the people of the city. And lots of times, you wonder, how come there are always potholes and they're not being fixed properly? They get on it, but they don't seem to have the right formula. I see something this year was changed. They brought in some people that are technically very good at it. I've been on construction for a long time, and I can see that certain things don't work. So you have to be able to evaluate some of these things that go before council, and you can get advice from the staff, but it's good to get input from the people in the community and also people that have experience in construction, because a lot of this stuff that we're spending money on is construction. And I've been doing that for more than 30 years, and I think it's very important that we
Collaborate
participate
together, put the two heads together and get both sides of it.
Exactly. And I mean, we work together. I've been working on all kinds of campaigns in the last 50 years. And I just think it's very important that I participate while I still have a lot of vim and vigor and boom. And I've just been retired now for a year and a half. And I've been urged to take part in municipal politics as a councillor.
Well, we're going to test that vigor and boom and see if we can make it last to another segment right after this quick break. We're back with Civic Affairs and our friend here, Ted. Now, Ted, you're showing the camera here a little bit, I guess, of you at work, correct? You want to tell us a little bit of context on what's actually going on in those photos?
Well, we were taking a little break on the job that I'm on, but in the last 25 years, that's how I've been dressed, more or less, and most of the people on the job know me like that. They don't know me with a baseball cap, they know me with a hard hat. And that's why I participate that way. I campaign on all kinds of campaigns here in town, provincially, federally, and also since I've been in construction, I've been all over the province. So I would engage in about 20 different communities, because that's where I was working at the time of campaigns. So I've been active in all kinds of communities, and that gives me some more background on what is done in different communities. For example, I was down in Iron Bridge, and I could see the road repair that they were doing there for years and years, traveling to Chapleau and traveling to Sudbury back and forth, and Southern Ontario and other parts of the province. I could see that they were doing a fantastic job of their road maintenance, and then I was in Thunder Bay, and I raised the issue with the city council there that they should get in touch with them, and I've raised it here several times, and seems like we got a little bit of action now this summer on one of the construction jobs.
That's awesome to hear. Andy?
Ted's right. The asphalt doesn't last. Lucky you get 6 to 8 months out of it. Ted, you mentioned that councillors have been around for a long time, and I agree with you. How can this be corrected? The apathy, people keep voting for the same people year after year in elections. And what about term limits? How do you feel about term limits on city council?
I don't think there should be term limits. I think it's good to allow people to have a choice. The problem that I find is that, especially if you have a citywide voting on councillors. They have some of that in Thunder Bay, and it's a disaster for working people because business people will get their names in the paper every week. They'll have paid ads for 10 years, and people become familiar with those names, with those faces, and the same with lawyers and other trades. People become familiar with them. So you don't get the input from tradesmen, and you don't get the input from ordinary workers, shop workers, and all these sort of things. They can't compete in a citywide campaign. Number one, from the familiarity that people have, and number two, from the cost that it is. So that with a ward system, you have an opportunity of getting a representative that you know from their activities, rather than just from a familiar ad that is in the paper every week.
You're right. If we had 10 councillors citywide, it would take a lot of people out of the competition that simply can't afford to run an election campaign citywide.
But it also unbalances the representation. Running a city, we've been told, is like a business. It's not like a business. We're dealing with people. A business is dealing with the bottom line, whatever it costs. You have to keep a look at the bottom line. But the important part is the people that are in the city. We have people dying in this city. We have people that are on the street now that should not be on the street. We have a situation where some people, because of the employment sector, they're just on the edge of being on the street. And we have to design the running of a city to take the people into account, not just the bottom line.
Absolutely. Ted, thank you so much for spending your time here with me and Andy. I know getting through a show with us isn't the easiest thing, but I think you did a pretty good job.
You managed to do it.
So stay tuned to next week's show. We'll have 4 more guests to bug, just as we did today. Andy, thank you so much. And
Thanks,
thank you
Alex.
for sticking with Civic Affairs, and we'll see you next week.